Of course. Walking traffic, sorry about that. I know this man. Boss. Good to see you. Good. Catch up with you next time, next week or two.
All right, y'all ready? I think we're good to go. Let's stay down here. Let everybody get to their seats. All right, I would like to call this May 10th meeting of the City Council of Charleston to order, please. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg, Councilmember Shealy, Councilmember Saccharin, Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Brady,
Present.
Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Bowden, Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Parker, Mayor Tecklenburg.
Present. Now, if y'all would like to join us, Councilmember Parker will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Almighty God, please protect our brave policemen and women as they put on their badges every day to serve and protect our citizens. And to the 24 known City of Charleston police officers that have given the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our city, hold them dear and wrap their families in your grace and protect them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We have a few presentations and recognitions to make this evening. Before I do, just want to make sure everybody knows, in the most unlikely event that we need to vacate the building, that we only have these two doors here to exit the big room and then one door over there. And in that unlikely circumstance, do not use the elevator, but please use the two stairs going down to the first floor and then the one stair going out to the front, just in case, just situational awareness. So first up, I'd like to invite Sergeant Craig DuBose to join us, and also joining us virtually is our own Police Chief Luther Reynolds to join us in a proclamation recognizing National Police Week. You've been chosen to accept the proclamation. Thank you this year. So whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the City of Charleston Police Department. Whereas this is really sad, tragic. There were 60,105 assaults against law enforcement officers in 2020, resulting in approximately 18,500 injuries. And since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,230 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including 24 members of the City of Charleston Police Department. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the names of the dedicated public servants killed in the line of duty are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., 619 new names will be added this year. 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 the year before. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Fund's 34th Annual Candlelight Vigil. That's on the evening of May 13th, later this week. And by the way, last Friday at Brittlebank Park at our own City of Charleston Memorial, we recognized the 24 fallen officers of the City Police Department. And then finally, on May 15th is the actual designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-mast. This day was designated years ago by President Kennedy. Whereas we publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation and thank them for safeguarding the lives of our citizens. Now, therefore, I, John J. Teckenberg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of our City Council, hereby proclaim May 11th through 17th is National Police Week in the country, but in Charleston as well. National Police Week.
Thank y'all so much. Sergeant Craig DeBose. I'm the South Carolina Fraternal Order Police Lodge Number 5's president, as well as a member of the Charleston Police Department. On behalf of both the Charleston Police Department and the Fraternal Order Police, we thank you, City Council and Mr. Mayor, for this proclamation.
Yes, sir. And we also have Chief Reynolds online. He would like to address us as well. Chief?
Mayor, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank our council, and I want to thank our residents for being so supportive, for taking the time to create and read this proclamation in honor of our families and our fallen heroes. We get a very unique high level of support in the Charleston, City of Charleston and the Low Country area, and so grateful for that. It sends a very strong message as we recognize our 24 fallen heroes. We recognize their families. We recognize their significant sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice by giving their lives in service to our city, to our residents, to our communities. And so I just want to say thank you to the FOP, Craig, and they've really done a lot to be able to add names. And we're adding a name. We submitted a historical name to add it to the memorial this year in DC. Sergeant Henry W. Buck was tragically killed in the line of duty in February 27, 1921. Sergeant Buck was providing an escort for a woman to retrieve her belongings from a residence on Ashton Street that was occupied by her estranged husband. He was shot multiple times by the husband as he attempted to talk with him, was rushed to the hospital where he died from his wounds a short time later. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the families. And the last thing I'll say is it's not how our heroes died that we celebrate. It's how they live their lives in selfless sacrifice and commitment to others. And I'm so grateful to recognize them. And it's important that we do that. And we have a contingent of officers from the Charleston Police Department that's going to DC for the police memorial, for the candlelight vigil, to make sure that we're represented, the families are represented this week. Thank you.
So if I may just make one more announcement, then I'll call on Councilmember Bowden. I started the day off with a exhibit unveiling at our St. Julian Divine Community Center on the east side. And it was the artwork of our own livability officer, Kelvin Bluffton, who's an amazing artist. And he did this whole series of portraits of first responders and law enforcement officers, including State Patrol, Charleston Police, even code enforcement officers and parking enforcement officers for the city of Charleston, and including a portrait of former police chief Reuben Greenberg. And Sarah Greenberg was there this morning when we unveiled this. And it was really a great occasion to mark the beginning of Police Week here in Charleston. So shout out to Kelvin. He's an amazing artist, and his thoughtfulness of doing this to honor law enforcement, but to also engage with kids, young people, to encourage them to consider a life. I'm looking right over here, young man, in public service and or law enforcement. Think about that coming up, okay? I know you can do it. So anyway, that was a great way to start today. Councilmember Bowden.
Thank you. And I can't say anything better than what Chief Reynolds just said, but I do want to recognize that there were a couple of sheriff's deputies injured in a horrible crash yesterday, and I didn't see any update on their conditions, but I think probably everybody around here right now is praying for them. And so our friends who patrol many parts of our city, the donut holes that we talked about earlier, they deserve our support. And so I just want to recognize those folks and let them know that we're praying for a speedy recovery.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Once again, thanks to all the men and women of the Charleston Police Department particularly. So it's also National Tennis Month, and I have a proclamation regarding that, and I'd like to invite Laurie Yarborough, who is our Recreation Center manager. No, she's our department manager. Peggy Bone is with us. She's our Recreation Center tennis manager. We also have Low Country Tennis Association President Dee Mack and Bob Pfeiffer, who served in the U.S. Tennis Association on a local, state, and national level, and any other tennis association officials. If y'all will come forward and join me up here, that would be great. We got some real tennis enthusiasts here. Come on up, come on forward. So glad that y'all can come up here. I won't bite. That way we can get a picture together when we're done. So the proclamation reads, it looks a little lengthy. I might do a shortcut. Whereas Charleston, South Carolina was recognized in 2010 as the best tennis town in America by the U.S. Tennis Association. The credit won Charleston Open, formerly known as Family Circle Cup and Volvo, is the largest women-only tennis tournament in North America and has been held in Charleston since 2001. Whereas the Charleston area Low Country Tennis Association was the 6th largest local league tennis program in the U.S. Tennis Association in 2021 and has registered 500 plus new players for the spring 2022 season. Wow, more folks coming on board. Whereas the Low Country Youth Tennis Association located in Charleston provides vibrant youth programs that promotes fun, a healthy lifestyle, and life-changing skills development through tennis. Whereas the Charleston Area Ladies Tennis Association, formed in 2000 as a successor to the Charleston City League, provides a venue for weekly competition and camaraderie for women at all levels of tennis ability. Many, many other accolades about Charleston tennis and all our tennis clubs. Whereas the latest research by the Physical Activity Council shows that more than 21 million Americans played tennis in 2020, an unprecedented 22% increase over 2019, the highest number of players since the Physical Activity Council study began in 2007, whereas the declaration of May as National Tennis Month encourages players, organizations, facilities, retailers, tennis manufacturers to help beginning and accomplished players alike find courts and playing opportunities in their communities. Therefore, I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2022 it's National Tennis Month. How about that? All right. So, I would like to ask Lori or Dee or Bob or whoever would like to come forward and speak and accept the proclamation.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Speaking for all tennis players in the Charleston area, and there are lots and lots of them, as was indicated in the proclamation. Thank you for the support that you provide to places like the Charleston Tennis Center. We think we have a great program here. In fact, we know we have a great program here. And by being involved in that program, it's helping the health of our community. And I can't say enough about the what tennis has contributed, and people from outside Charleston know that Charleston is one of the tennis epicenters, if you will, in the United States. And it's just thank you very much for all the support. Yes, sir. And I would also like to, on behalf of the group, and this is from one of our member organizations here, the Low Country Youth Tennis Association. Okay. So you can wear that proudly when you're out walking or jogging or
Playing
whatever.
tennis.
Playing tennis, that's right. And if the city council, if you have the opportunity to put some money in Peggy Bones' tennis budget, we would certainly appreciate that. Because the biggest thing that we need is courts. We've got the players. We just need the courts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for being with us. So finally, we have a proclamation. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. Recognizing the 20th anniversary of the Low Country Senior Center. Could the Low Country and Waring Senior Center Executive Elizabeth Bernay come join me, please, along with Waring Senior Center Wellness Manager Alicia Paris, and they'll come up. I'll read a proclamation, and then we'll ask Elizabeth and Alicia to say a word if they would like. Oh, and we have some board members, I bet. Y'all come on up on the platform together. That's way when we're done, you can get a picture with everyone. It'll be great. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. So whereas the city of Charleston recognizes and values the important role of senior centers in communities across the country by connecting older adults to services and activities to help them remain healthy, active, and engaged. And whereas Roper St. Francis Healthcare has a rich history of serving and caring for the Low Country for over 160 years as the area's only private, not-for-profit healthcare system with a commitment to improving health through a spirit of charity and giving back. And whereas the city of Charleston and Roper St. Francis Healthcare partnered over 20 years ago to construct and develop a new senior citizen center on James Island that would serve adults age 50 and older in the Low Country. And whereas the Low Country Senior Center opened its doors in May of 2002, 20 years ago, as a wellness model senior center promoting physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, social, and financial health of older adults. Whereas the Low Country Senior Center became the first in the state of South Carolina to achieve national accreditation by the National Institute of Senior Centers in 2005. Whereas the Low Country Senior Center continues as only one of two nationally certified accredited senior centers in the state. Whereas the Low Country Senior Center has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of older adults in Charleston. And whereas during the pandemic, the Low Country Senior Center was one of the first senior centers in the state to provide online classes, offering the first class within 1 week of March 2020, and then over 1,000 online classes in both 2020 and 2021. With over 1.1 million visits, the Low Country Senior Center has provided older adults a place to enjoy friendships, be active, engaged, and connected, share their wisdom. And whereas the city of Charleston wishes to celebrate and honor the 20th anniversary of the opening of Low Country Senior Center and subsequently the Waring Senior Center. Now therefore, I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of council, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 2nd, this week, a Low Country Senior Center Day in the city of Charleston. Thanks for all y'all do. You're really remarkable. Let's give them a hand. And Elizabeth, do you or Alicia want to come forward and share a few words with us about the center and how it's going?
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And I just, on behalf of all the Senior Center members, want to thank you so much for your support and providing this wonderful service to both James Island, and we have the Waring Senior Center now, which is another testament to the appeal and the need and support for senior centers in our community. If you have not visited the senior centers, I would encourage you to stop by and visit them. It is like a breath of fresh air. Everyone is happy and having a great time. We've been celebrating all month, the month of May at Low Country on James Island. We have photos up of 20 years of fun activities that have been happening. So I encourage you to stop by. And also, as a representative from Roper St. Francis Healthcare, I would like to thank you for the public-private partnership that we have with the city of Charleston. It is a unique partnership and it has worked extremely well for the past 20 years. And we look forward to continuing that. So thank you so much.
You good? Anybody else want to give a testimonial? Thank you so much. Did we get a picture while y'all were up here? You probably clicked the picture. I'll get with Al. So, also in the last week, council members and everyone, if I could share with you, we had our first in-person employee service award and retirement awards and those kinds of things. But one city employee didn't make it to the breakfast to get their service pin. So I'd like to ask Councilmember Waring to come forward and get his 10-year anniversary pin with the city of Charleston. Keith Waring. We broke the camera. There you go. There's your pin.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So next up is to approve our city council minutes from April 26th. We have a motion to approve. Any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And next we have, we're already ready for our citizens participation period. Madam Clerk.
And Mr. Mayor, we have 19 people signed up to speak. 19. All right, the time is 1.5 minutes. Katie Zimmerman.
Hi, it's good to see you all in person. My name is Katie Zimmerman. I'm Executive Director of Charleston Moves. And I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for your continued leadership on the Ashley River Bike and Pedestrian Bridge. It's a huge deal. It's going to be legacy making for our region. It's going to save a lot of lives and make commutes a lot more enjoyable. I'll be biking home over the current bridge tonight and just thinking about what it's going to be like going over the new one. I also wanted to invite you all, May is National Bike Month. Here locally, we celebrate Mobility Month. We want to honor and celebrate complete streets, the ability to safely walk, bike, and utilize public transit throughout Charleston County. So we do have 2 bike rides coming up. So I told you I'd peer pressure you. So this Sunday, we'll be going over the Ashley River bridges and the Wapu Cut Bridge. We'll be stopping for a little history tour along the waterfront at McLeod. And we want to celebrate the progress that's happening with the Ashley River Bridge. And we also want to point to the need to address the Wapu crossing at some point. We'll be working on that. And on Wednesday of next week, we'll be doing our Ride of Silence over the North Bridge. So if you want to bike this Sunday, meet us at Taco Boy downtown, 10:30 a.m. Next week on Wednesday, meet us outside of Frothy Beard on Sam Rittenberg, starting at 5:30 p.m. Wednesday evening. Both are police escorted, thanks to Charleston Police Department. So
Time.
it's a space. Thank you.
Anthony Bryant.
I just received my letter from South Carolina Law Enforcement Division and Administrative Procedure Act, Title I. And this letter and the letter from the Supreme Court I received, SLED kind of laid out clearly that I'm very unpopular statewide. From 1789 to 1866, there were people held in bondage in the state and they had overseers over them. And so therefore, my concern was, what is reckless and reasonable? What is officer-involved critical incident reports, cost-benefit analysis? What is qualified immunity and a disparity analysis by race and income and census tracts, since we've changed so much in the city. So I just wanted to know that in 2007, I made public comment on a study regarding local government spending with Mayor Riley and Mayor Summey years ago regarding spending sprees in this area. So I'm not concerned about SLED. I'm not concerned about any federal agency because I stand on what I believe in, that the Black man in South Carolina, 99% chances, reckless or not reckless, force could be used on them with no consequence. I believe that. I believe that as a Black man. Okay, so they had the data. We want to see a public hearing on the.
Muhammad Idris.
Before I start, Nick, I pass you, I think the officer passed you down to the. City Council. Yeah. Yes. I'm passing that out. Muhammad Idris. I believe that racism is dead. What we are suffering from is greed, envy, jealousy, and ignorance. The picture that I'm giving you is a picture of Philip Simmons, the great iron worker. And it looked like he's being hung, like the Ku Klux Klans were hanging African-American at one time. Like I said, racism is dead. We suffer from greed, envy, and jealousy. That portrait of the great iron worker is put there to try to start racism. So we are working to put a Philip Simmons multi-purpose culture center in that site. The East Side Community Center is complaining that the people are not picking up the garbage cans like they're supposed to in the neighborhood. They don't do it like they do it downtown. They leave it any kind of place, trash all over the street, and do as they please in our neighborhood. So we'll be working constantly to put that multi-purpose cultural center at that site at 63 Columbia Street. Everybody want to come in our neighborhood, close down our place of entertainment, like John Powell Theater. These people been there for over 80 years. They don't bother nobody.
Time.
But people come there all the time while they're there. Thank you.
Cash and Drolet.
Good evening, Cash and Drolet with Historic Charleston Foundation. I am excited to bring this award to City Council and to the City of Charleston tonight. HCF celebrated our 75th Charter Day and celebrated our 75-year legacy on April 28th. And we presented the City of Charleston with a White Law Founders Award. This award goes to individuals, groups, or government entities for dedication to preservation of buildings and places or creation of buildings and places. And this award is given to the city for the design of an exceptional civic building, Fire Station 11. That's the new fire station on Savannah Highway next to the Charleston 9 Memorial. It is a beautiful fire station. If you haven't been out to see it, it has 9 windows evocative of those fallen heroes. It's clad in red brick and has 2 historic fire bells that are reminiscent of and pay a nod to downtown Charleston historic fire stations. And it's the first project that the city's done west of the Ashley since the Revitalization Commission was created. So it's also an important architectural precedent. And Mr. Mayor and City Council, we're excited to present this award to you.
Be recognized by the Historic Charleston Foundation. We had a terrific time at the event you had last week, and it says a lot for focus on West Ashley and for the civic building next to such a critical place, important place in our city to remember the fallen from that superstore site. So I must just share with you briefly. Last June 18th, when we had the annual memorial service there, and the station was complete. We were just about to open it, and the sun was setting, and the lights were on in the station, and you're facing those 9 windows, each one for one of the fallen firefighters, and the emotion and the thankfulness from the families, was palpable. It was just overflowing. And so it's a real honor to be recognized. So thank you for that very much. All right, thank you.
Woody Norris.
How's everyone? Not here in a bad way. I'm the owner of Booze Pops, Woody Norris. I'm here today to thank you, Mayor, City Council, for last year, working with us, working with small businesses and the communication we had. Just wanted to update our status with City Council. Last year, me and Mayor Tecklenburg had a conversation on the phone, and he said he was concerned about our licensing, and we're making progress in Columbia, working with representatives and Senate members of the Senate, trying to create a category for our program, for what we do. And it's going to expand the footprint of not only us, but every restaurant in the state. And so I just wanted to let you know that we're working on that, and we're going to have this legislation completed. We hope to, just make sure we make a positive impact in our community. And thank you all again for working with us last year. And the ones that weren't here, thank you. And Booze Pops, we support you guys 100%. So thank you. Hey, I need a truck, I'll get it.
Arthur Lawrence. Reverend Hayward.
Charles Hayward, Jones Island, South Carolina. there are some friends of mine here who want to share with you their concerns about the Gadsden Creek and this council's need to both restore and revitalize it. Charleston Youth Justice Ministry, having been working on this concern, want to acknowledge that there's a very loud voice continuing to grow that far outnumber what the city's plan might be that would result in the destruction of Gadsden Creek. We want this council to know that this issue is first an environmental issue. It's amazing that we would turn the creek into a ditch. But it's an environmental issue because we want to also acknowledge with you the flooding that's on the west side that takes place. We're not ignorant of that. When I look around this room into all of your eyes, I see some very intelligent men and lady. We understand what this is all about. This is about economics. For you, for some of you, it might be about money in terms of what the city may gain or save. But for the people who live in the community, it's first environmental, it's historic for the people who have lived there. It's also moral and it's an issue of justice. So we ask you to move forward. Think those three elements of the part of the plan. Thank you, sir.
Audrey Lisbon.
Hello, everybody. I'm Audrey Lisbon, resident of downtown Charleston and president of the West Side Neighborhood Association. And I'd like to ask the city to consider your sights on beautifying the green space and recognize that Gadsden Creek can be an asset as a teaching mechanism for teachers to train our children to learn about biology and science with dreams of becoming the next biologist or scientist. And when I'd like for you to also consider to stop filling our community with big buildings that's taken away from the quality of life in West Side. That's it. Thank you.
Stephen Azarella.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Azarella. I'm a member of the Charleston Firefighters Association. Tomorrow completes the 90-day review the mayor called for in relations to the City of Charleston firefighters pay issue. We ask that City Council does the right thing and raise firefighters' pays to be competitive across the country, the state, and help us improve our retention problem. Thank you.
Patrick Moyer. Angela Barnett.
My name is Angela Barnett. I'm Director of Planning and Real Estate for Charleston County School District. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. I'm here because I was at the last meeting and I didn't speak, and I kind of was really wanting to jump out of my seat listening to some of the council members' concerns. So I'm here on behalf of our Board of Trustees and also our superintendent to let you know we have already drafted an agreement. We have already sent it over to Ms. Copeland and Ms. Creech. They are currently working on that, and we hope to have everything taken care of and tidied up very soon on that. So we really appreciate your support. We are looking forward to really listening to what the council wants, especially some of your concerns when it comes to the history of that building. We are very excited about the momentum that we have with early college, and we want to see the success of that as we move forward. But we also want to be good stewards in the community. Thank you.
Lynn Cool J.
City Council members, Mayor Tecklenburg, I'm Lynn Cool J. I'm a member of Charleston Area Justice Ministries, though tonight I speak as an individual. I strongly support the justice work being done by the Friends of Gadsden Creek.
Driving nearby, I keep eyeing bright red flags all about town, all on the peninsula, highlighting buildings and celebrating an organization's 75th anniversary. Quoting historic Charleston Foundation's website, great cities are tapestries. Their history, character, and uniqueness are the fabric from which they're woven. So I question all of you. What is deemed worthy of preservation? Here in Charleston, are we as a community and are you as the local leaders actually honestly creating a city which is sewn from the diverse fabric of all of Charleston's history, culture, and voices? For decades, Charleston and its mayors have disregarded, taken from, and abused its Black residents. And within the Gadsden Green area, where house seizures and placement of a landfill in the marshy areas surrounding the creek and egregious neglect. Currently, you strongly champion West Edge, the developer, in its next phase and in the filling in of Gadsden Creek. Going against science and recommendations from the Dutch dialogues and the will of the people, which is growing, you will be canceling out one of the oldest ecological features of the peninsula. Building luxury condos and adding a tremendous concrete footprint does not equal flood mitigation. Right? Do justice.
Martha Morris. Tony Daniel.
Thank you very much. This is the helmet. Memorial Day is coming up. This is the helmet my father wore during the Korean War. You screwed over a veteran, especially you, Ross. You should be ashamed of yourself when you did that to another disabled veteran. And when I talk about the roads, for example, since we met 42 days ago, 61,700 cars have gone by my house. 11,130 have gone by your buddy Finnegan's house. Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you to refrain from addressing specific council members directly. You're addressing us as a body.
Yes, sir. All right. So once again, 61,700 cars have gone by our house. 11,130 have gone by the other complaints on the neighborhood. You cannot close a road without an order. You don't have an order. And even if you had an order, it has to comply with the court cases in the best interest of all. This is not in the best interest of all. It's Memorial Day. I've been coming before you since my dad had a stroke 18 months ago. So far, thanks to Mr. Brady, we got a traffic survey. So now we have the data. We know exactly what we're talking about. Is it speculation? No, it's the hard facts. The hard facts is I have 700% more traffic on my side of the neighborhood with the closed roads than they have on the other. There is no cutting through. That argument is complete nonsense, as shown by, because you can cut through right now by going one block further. If you want to cut through. Thank you very much. I look forward to your answer.
Edward Washington.
Good evening, council members. My name is Edward Washington. I'm a fellow Charlestonian, born and raised. I went to school at Burke High School, graduated. I have family and friends that live in Gaston Creek. And all my life, I've noticed the bad problems of flooding. I'm on behalf of Representative Cajun right now, but we are adamantly opposed of filling in the Gaston Creek. We would hope that you would correct the flooding in that area, because, you know, growing back up in that area back in the 70s, it's always been a flooding problem and it's not been corrected. And here's 2022. So we just adamantly oppose the Gaston Creek filling up. Thank you.
Joy Duncan Smith.
Hi, I'm Joy Smith. I live on the Isle of Palms and I worship at St. Stephen's Episcopal on Anson Street. Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'm speaking tonight in support of restoring and revitalizing Gadsden Creek. And also I am with my fellow citizens in asking and demanding reparations for the Gadsden Green community. In the recent past, you've adopted several reports, including the Dutch Dialogues, the City Comprehensive Plan, the Stormwater Design Guidelines, and the Climate Action Plan. All 4 of these reports explicitly state a commitment to natural drainage solutions that work with wetlands to address flooding. These reports cite Gadsden Creek as a prime example of a tidal wetland that is an invaluable resource that should not be destroyed in favor of an engineered drainage solution. I'm asking that the city keep with its promises and commitments and reverse its support of the West Edge permit application. As the majority landowner of this impacted site, you have both the power and the responsibility to stand with us in taking our city on a new and more equitable direction. This is such a unique community. I spent my honeymoon here in 1978, and it's a great place to be. I've lived here off and on for 20 years, and it's time for us to show the rest of the country how we do it correctly, how we live in the 21st century.
And those were all the speakers that we had. We did receive one comment from a citizen that stated he filed a letter of protest at the United States District Court regarding the 2010 police report. And that was the only comment we received.
Next up is our petitions and communications. We have appointments to 3 different committees, commissions. Can I entertain a motion?
Second. Mr. Mayor, a couple of things.
We have a motion to approve all 3 commissions. Okay.
Discussion.
Councilmember Gregory.
Yes, on the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, it's not reconciliation, it's conciliation commission.
Oh, correction duly noted.
Yes. Number 2, it does not reflect my appointment, and I guess I got to it a little late. And I'd like to amend by including my appointment. Can I do that? Can I amend this?
Well, the only catch is the Councilmember Gregory was going to serve and you no longer intend to. Is that correct, Councilmember?
I think we've had that conversation, and as a result, I want.
We have, it's just relevant to your request.
Yes.
Because if someone else who has appointed someone, a council member, then agreed to serve on the commission, then it kind of messes things up. You see what I mean? Because then they didn't get their appointment that they've already made here. You follow me?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'll give you an example, just pick on somebody. Councilmember Shealy recommended Robert Dosher, right? So say if next week now, we're still looking for one council member to serve. If Councilmember Shealy were to step up and volunteer and serve, well, then it doesn't really meet the ordinance because he's serving on the commission, then he doesn't get an appointment. You follow me? And so if we're approving Dosher tonight, then that would put things out of sync. So could I just request that we wait on your appointment until we resolve which other council member is going to serve?
And if no one decides to serve,
then we may have to change the ordinance.
Correct.
Or have a vacant seat.
All right, but I guess what I'm asking is, what you're saying is that I will not have an opportunity to make an appointment until.
I just want to be fair to all concerned. And if a council member wants to serve, I would like them to have since they've already solicited and asked somebody to serve as their appointment.
Yeah.
I guess you could call that double dipping, but it would be fair to that council member now willing to step up and serve on the commission that their appointee got approved as well.
I understand, but do we have such a council member that wants to do that, Mayor?
Not yet.
I mean, so you anticipate that we will have one?
I certainly hope so.
That will step up?
I hope so.
Oh, and once that person steps up, then I will be able to make my appointment accordingly?
We'll we'll be able to resolve it one way or the other. Yes, sir.
You're confusing me. I have no idea at this point what,
Okay.
are you suggesting that because I opted not to serve, okay,
Right.
I don't have an opportunity to appoint?
Not exactly. I just want to be,
Come on, Mayor.
I want you to hold off if you don't mind, so we make sure we're fair to those who have made appointments already. It's the pleasure of council. If y'all want to accept the appointment, it's fine with me. Councilmember Mitchell and then Shade.
Mr. Mayor, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as I remember, I called in a name also.
You did?
So they called me and asked me to submit a name, but I think I did.
Amber
It's not on here.
has already left our employee, so if you called it in to Amber, I didn't get it. I apologize.
Yeah, because I still have his name. He wasn't Amber. Someone else called and left a message and I wanted me to call to submit a name.
Okay.
And I think I called.
Was it Brittany?
Huh?
Was it Brittany?
I believe it was.
Yeah, okay.
And,
Well, I'm sorry, it didn't make it to the list. I'll go back and pick that one up as well, or if you want to make the nomination from
yeah,
the floor.
I'll make it from the floor to make sure he's on there. It's
That's
Alvin
fine.
Johnson.
Alvin Johnson. All right, we have an appointment from Councilmember Mitchell in the name of Alvin Johnson. Councilmember Shade and then Seekings.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just chime in a little bit to clarify Councilmember Gregory's question. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but I think that the way the ordinance was written, there's 13 members on the commission and 3 members will be from city council, leaving 10 to be appointed by the mayor and the remainder of council members. So I think what the mayor is trying to clarify, Councilmember Gregory, is not to preclude your appointment, but not to have a person who has made a appointment as a council member, then have that person serve on the commission as well. So that person would then have appointed himself or herself and a member of the community to serve. So we just want to keep the ordinance clear. And if we could wait until we resolve the issue, who's going to take the 3rd city council slot, then that may resolve your request for an appointed person.
That was my hope. Councilmember Seekings.
Well, I hate to be contrarian on this one, but I mean, under that logic, that would apply to everybody who's appointing somebody tonight.
Right.
So I just think, let's get through this appointment process. If Councilmember Mitchell and Councilmember Gregory want to add their people, and then internally, let's figure out a council member to serve on there and we can deal with someone who's been appointed if that becomes an issue. Because I mean, I think under the logic that's been put forward, Councilmember Shealy, Appel, Brady, Waring and Shade have all gotten people recommended here. And if they, in the next week or two, have an epiphany and decide to volunteer, they'd fall under the same, but I understand, but it would still be under the same law.
I'd see what you mean. You're right.
So let's let Councilmember Gregory put a name out there. Put a name out there, Councilmember Gregory. Here's your opportunity.
As usual, your ice is colder than mine. My recommendation would be Carol Jackson.
He's put forward Carol Jackson. I will amend my motion to include the appointments as they put forward.
All right.
I second.
All right. Any other discussion? We're going to approve these 3 commissions and the 3rd one, Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, will also include Alvin Johnson, recommended by Councilmember Mitchell, and Carol Jackson, recommended by Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring.
Mr. Mayor, I actually have a question on another commission, not this one. I mean, we've made so good progress on this one. I don't want to slow it up. But do we have any other vacancies on the West Ash? I didn't realize we had that many vacancies. I had one I wanted to put on. I mean, we could, if we have a vacancy, I'll wait till the next meeting. But,
I'm not aware of one. I thought we had filled it up, but can I get with Brittany and get back to you?
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Councilmember Sacron.
Just on that note, could you send that out to all of us if there's any vacancies on the West Ashley revitalization? I do have someone else I'd like to recommend if there's a vacancy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. All right. Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is council communications. First, a discussion regarding R-156H-3126 signed by Governor McMaster. Councilmember Parker.
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was put onto council communications prior to the memo going out to y'all, just so y'all know, because it wasn't brought up. So I figured I'd bring it here, but I did just want to read one section because I think it's relevant and the legislature got it right. The General Assembly declares the practice of discrimination against an individual because the individual has chosen not to receive a COVID-19 vaccination or booster is a matter of state concern and is in conflict with the ideals of South Carolina and the nation. As this discrimination interferes with opportunities of the individual to receive employment and to develop according to the individual's own ability. I think they said it perfectly. God bless South Carolina.
All right, thank you. Any further comments? Next up is a discussion regarding the process for proposed new or amended ordinances to move from standing committees to the full city council. Councilmember Bowden.
Thank you. I'll tell you all what I'm suggesting, and then I'll sort of give a little bit of maybe the background for it. Councilmember Brady has so graciously, as our informal parliamentarian, volunteered to chair a ad hoc rules committee. I remember when we passed the rules at the beginning of the year, we said, you know, something's not working, we can go back and look into it. Apparently that's what's happened every year since he's been on council as well. And so he thought it would be a good idea to take a holistic view of our rules and see what could be optimized. And so that's what I'm suggesting tonight. And, you know, by way of background, the reason this came up in my mind, in the discussions I've had with other folks, is entirely how I am communicating this to my constituents. So when I get the agenda on Wednesday evening, I read it and I send out an email generally Thursday morning with, you know, what I think are the, let's say 3 to 5 big ticket items on the agenda, things that they may read about in the newspaper, things that, you know, I think we may have a good discussion on, weighty items. And what, you know, sometimes I can't see, you know, in reviewing that, is the discussions that are bubbling up in committee that I haven't been aware of. You know, we're not all on each committee for good reason. And the committees deserve to have their say at the end of the day, suggest whatever they want to suggest and workshop things the way they want to workshop them. But, you know, sometimes I'm not aware that there was a really good discussion in the committee that I would like to be aware of. And sometimes that's the reasons that things are coming up. Sometimes it's somebody adding something that's a, you know, really great idea. And so there were, I think, a couple ideas maybe floating out there about just a better process. I know that it used to be, I don't know what's, y'all hearing that? All right, well, I'm gonna maybe move that away from my iPad. Maybe that's what it is. So there's, you know, sometimes good discussion that I'm just missing. And I think there were good ideas floating out there about how to fix that particular problem. But then Councilmember Brady, you know, being the sort of rules savant that he is, may have other ideas for things that, you know, frankly, I just don't have enough experience to suggest here. So I would suggest that we form an ad hoc rules committee to optimize our processes so that we can make sure that, especially when we're making really big changes, you know, not things like passing out of Ways and Means and coming to us that, you know, a lot of times these things need to move somewhat quickly, but that we can make sure that we are being as deliberative as possible, that it is being communicated properly to all the stakeholders and community members, and that it is coming to us in a way that, you know, we've had the ultimate chance to communicate and deliberate over, and that we're essentially ready to move forward on, barring some unforeseen new development. So given that he has graciously volunteered his time, I would say that we form a committee and appoint him chairman.
Because there's a process that takes place before it even gets to committee when we're talking about an ordinance or a legal document. No legal document or ordinance comes before this committee without clearing Corporation Counsel. Let's make that clear. I couldn't just write, I guess I can't, I couldn't just write an ordinance and present it to you. That would be unconscionable because it must pass the legal muster on whatever is developed. And so I want to dispel, okay, any notion that anything in form of a law, an ordinance, a resolution has to go through Corporation Counsel. It was, it was implied during the last meeting, and almost as if something came before this body that did not clear legal counsel. And Mr. Mayor, I was a bit disappointed, particularly when staff is being criticized the way staff was criticized last council meeting. In 14 years on this council, I have never heard anyone describe anything that comes out of our Corporation Counsel as sloppy. In 14 years, it's the first time I've ever heard that. Perhaps it was sloppy, inappropriately called so. I didn't think so, however, but I do think that when staff is being described as something other than they are as professionals, as a manager, a past manager, that would never move forward with me and anyone describing my staff as our staff were described at our last council meeting. So I think that it is very important, okay, that we make sure, that we make sure, okay, that when we're talking about an ordinance or a legal document of any kind, before it even gets to that subcommittee, okay, it's already gone through a process with regard to our legal staff. And I think that's important for the record to also reflect, okay, that nothing with regard to an ordinance or any legal documents come before the body of a whole without it having gone through our legal counsel, Mr. Mayor. So there's a process, okay, before it even gets to the subcommittee, okay? And I'm responding to Councilman Bowden. There's a process, okay, that before a legal document even gets here, that has gone through our Corporation Counsel. That's the way it's been for the last 14 years, okay? And again, if you just bear with me a bit, some argue that you never see legislation coming from this body. There's nothing to restrict that. I mean, in fact, I have worked on legislation that came before this body, but that legislation had to pass the legal muster, the legal test. So the rules committee, okay, that we are forming, I just think that before we get there, we need to understand the entire process. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Shade
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
and Brady.
Councilman Bowden called me to ask my opinion about what he brought up today meeting. And so to respond a little bit, but some of the Councilman Gregory is talking about it, and he's right. The ordinances, the proclamations, whatever for council goes through our legal department first for, as you said, Councilmember Gregory, legal muster. And I've got to applaud you for what you've done as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, because you've made us slow down. We've gone through that committee agenda, and we're spending millions of dollars, and it's like we're just not paying the public perceptions are not paying attention to it, and we're being somewhat cavalier, which is not, of course, not what we're doing. There is a process, and you're 100% correct. There is a process of how this is, how the sausage is being made, literally, before it comes out to us. I think some of the concern that we had is that when we serve on a committee, and then we're about to make a bunch of committee reports in the next few minutes. Those of us who serve on that committee, we've got the advantage of hearing for the first time what that ordinance may be about or what that expenditure may be about. And so unless you sign in on Zoom, like I did this afternoon, I attended the Transportation Department Committee of Transportation, because I wanted to hear about the actual bridge crossing. Unless you come to that, you somewhat a little bit of a disadvantage as to what may be transpiring. So when we have a committee meeting and then the committee reports out and then makes a recommendation on a particular ordinance, sometimes if we're not fully informed about that ordinance, we may be left out or not up to speed at the very least. So I think what we're trying to accomplish here is what you were trying to accomplish, Councilmember Gregory, which is to hit the pause button a little bit to give us an opportunity to fully grasp some of the much more important ordinances, particularly to have come before us, so that we're not drinking out of a fire hose. And so I like this idea. I think it's sort of important. We're not derailing the process. I think we're just trying to make sure that we're being more deliberative with the process. And I think that's something worthy of our consideration.
Councilmember Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councilmember Bowden for bringing this up into our attention. As he mentioned, we talk about, I know some other people sitting around the table as well, whenever the rules of council get passed in January, we always say, literally, we can always go back and revisit them if we need to. And I thought just bringing it up now gives us that opportunity to see how efficient are we actually operating. Like, we are the lowest kind of local level of government, and in theory, we should be the most efficient compared to when you get to several hundred members as you start moving up. And I think it's time that we kind of sit down and look and make sure that we're operating in the most efficient manner that we can as we move things forward, and obviously, hopefully for the betterment of Charleston. So I'd like to ask Mr. Mayor, similar to what Councilmember Bowden said, he has graciously offered to serve on an ad hoc rules committee as well as Councilmember Waring, and would ask that we create the rules committee and we can report back within, I think 90 days is pretty fair at the August meeting, and let us get time to look at what other councils, especially the large cities around the state, how they kind of operate, and how we can optimize the rules of council going forward. And we can report back within 90 days on that.
All right, Councilmember Waring.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agreed to serve and happy to serve, but when Councilman Bowden called me, it was more like a timing issue, which I agreed with. And I think I'm gonna ask Mr. Summerfield to come to the microphone. We get involved with these committees and we really get to working in those committees. I know you know that because you sit on virtually all of them. And we get full explanations. That's where the sausage is made. And then when we come to the floor of council, those who have not served on the committee, it's been left out in some cases, especially the difficult issues. But when when something goes through the planning commission, I'm not going to put you on the hot seat, Mr. Summerfield. When something
wasn't even warmed up in the bullpen.
But when something goes through the planning commission and passes, how much time does it take before it comes before council? It doesn't come, I don't believe, the next meeting. I think, isn't it, if a rezoning takes place, does it come to, the planning commission meets once a month?
Not to take away from Mr. Summerfield, but it usually comes the following month.
That's my point. In other words, sometimes when we have really involved issues on the committee level, it's subject to come then at the next council meeting. For example, community development meets, I think, on a Thursday, or met on a Thursday that particular week. Following Tuesday, we had a complicated issue right in the public square.
Right.
Versus the most complicated planning issues, when they vote on it, it takes 30 days before it comes before. So I think when we meet in this ad hoc committee, Councilman Brady and Bowden and whoever else wants to join, I think we have something that's actually working. By the same token, the ordinary shouldn't be held up. It should be able to come forward in an expedient manner. So I just want to throw that out there.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, if there had been such a matter on the Traffic and Transportation Committee this afternoon, it would be before us within an hour and a half. So there should be some consideration to that. Anybody before back to Councilmember Bowden? Councilmember Bowden?
Thanks, and everybody added great points, and that was sort of my intent going into this. And just, quickly, Councilmember Gregory, you mentioned subcommittees, and that's something that the State House does, that the Congress does. Most bodies, similar to ours, legislative bodies, have some process where you can kind of see it bubbling up, and that's something that I would like to see. I mean, with this, few members, it'd be difficult to do something like that. But whatever we can do, looking at other municipalities and things, I think would be great, just to accomplish what everybody else has suggested.
Let me ask this: is there any objection to us proceeding with the ad hoc rules committee to review our rules? Would anyone else like to serve in addition to Council members Brady, Waring, and Bowden? All right.
I'm happy to serve.
Okay. We're going to add Councilmember Saccharin to the committee as well. And I'll be willing to serve as well. All right. Terrific. So ordained. Thank you for bringing that forward. Next up, speaking of council committees, is our Committee on Traffic and Transportation. Councilmember Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Committee on Traffic and Transportation, as the mayor mentioned, met this afternoon at 3:30. And as Councilmember Shahead had mentioned, we did receive an update on the Ashley River Crossing Bike and Pedestrian Bridge project. I'd like to thank, as everyone saw on the Ways and Means agenda, with the additional $1 million that we are advocating from the allocating from the hospitality fee, that project is the risk-based budget is fully funded now. And I want to commend Councilmember Seekings and the mayor and Edmund Mose from Capital Projects for their presentation to the COG. I also serve on that policy committee and was happy to vote in favor of the additional $14 million that we are getting allocated from technically the Federal Highways Administration, but coming by way of the DOT as well as a DOT allocation on that. And Secretary Hall was in attendance and is very much in favor of this project. And Councilmember Seekings did make note of that during our meeting as well, that this is not going to include any scale backs in the scope of the project. This is going to be as it was originally designed. And that's a huge win for the community, because once this bridge, as Ms. Zimmerman noted in her public comment, is completed, you'll be able to go on the Greenway, basically from downtown across the bridge, and then go all the way to my district near the Limehouse Bridge on Johns Island. And that's a huge win for mobility in the city, to be able to do that without ever having to have bikes and pedestrians really have to get on a road other than to cross them on the Greenway. So that was really exciting. Then we received a update on the transit and bus stop design guidelines from CARTA. and what that looks like as those go up, as they are able to in the city and here in the local area as well. Moving from, if you think of just kind of the flat where you stand and wait for the bus, then there's the kind of benches, and then there's the full bus stops as well that have the shelters and other accessibility options. Then we received, near and dear to my heart, a update on the Sanders Road traffic signal and sidewalk project updates. The signal went out to bid last year. It hopefully will be delivered in October and completed by the end of this year. And that is going to be a mast armed light at Sanders and Beast Ferry Road, very active corridor. Sanders is where the new C. Williams Middle School is, as well as West Ashley High School is right over there, and the Beast Ferry Library. So there's been a significant increase in traffic along that road as it goes towards Beast Ferry. And then the sidewalk is actually going to connect Half Shell Lane to the school district property at C. Williams. A lot of people, especially in Carolina Bay, they prefer for their children to be able to walk to school. And currently it's somewhat dangerous, especially when it's dark in the mornings, for them to not have a sidewalk to safely get off the road. And those hopefully is going through DOT comments right now, and hopefully it'll get in the pipeline soon here for completion. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Brady? Councilmember Shade?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, I did attend the meeting this afternoon because I wanted to get an update on the Ashley River Crossing pedestrian bike bridge. And I'm glad to hear that we got full funding, and just wanted my hats off to all those who were involved in that process. Councilmember Seekins was very much involved in that as well. And I'm glad for a lot of reasons that we're maintaining the original design and width of this bridge. This is not going to be a bridge that's just going to be used for recreation purposes. It is going to be a transportation bridge for folks who want to walk or bike across that bridge. It's going to impact just about every aspect of West Ashley. And so I'm thank you, Mayor, for your work on that as well. But I just want the community to have this bridge proceed. And I just remember that those of us who've been around since 2016, one of the largest city council meetings we had was 500 people showed up at Gilliard Center to talk about this bridge. So I know the community is heavily involved and interested in this. So I just want to say thank you for the work that's been done by all those who were engaged in it. And the second point I just want to make, as I listened into this committee meeting, is that as you talk about your transit and bus stop design guidelines, and I mentioned this about some projects in West Ashley, Plan West Ashley has some specific ideas about that. I just want to make a comment that as your committee is going through with that, to pay attention to some of the recommendations on those spots. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Appel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to briefly make a couple comments on the Ashley River Bike Ped Bridge. Building infrastructure in this country these days is very difficult. And that goes without saying, whether it's 526 or the bridge, we're dealing with permitting and cost overruns, et cetera. So it's critical that while this is a city-led effort, it can't just be up to the city of Charleston to get this done. So I want to thank our friends at Charleston County, our friends at the state, SCDOT. Shout out to Councilmember Seekins for helping to get the COG involved, and they've stepped up to the plate in a big way with a big check, I believe $14 million or so through the feds to the COG. And it just shows, if you try to go it alone with a big infrastructure project, you got no hope. It's gonna be hard enough when you got everybody at the table, but at least you've got a chance. And I think we've done a lot certainly with the mayor's support of getting everybody to the table, because there'll be some more bumps along the way. But when you're going into it united with a good team, you stand the best chance of meeting those challenges as they come. And I look forward to riding across this bridge one day, and it's gonna be great. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you for that report. Next up, Committee on Public Safety, Councilmember Shade.
It's not gonna be that fast.
I second that motion. Mr. Mayor.
I think
This was public safety.
Public
So
safety.
public safety.
There are a couple points.
We have a motion already. It's on the floor. Any discussion? No. Councilmember Shade.
Thank you. Just items A, B, C, and D we took up in Ways and Means. But I do want to make one particular point on the MOU with the fire departments. Chief Courier brought this up to our attention. We've added a new partner, that is Mount Pleasant Fire Department. They were not formally aligned with us on this MOU for cooperation to cover these zones. So that's an important part of that. We did receive a report from Chief Courier and Shannon Scaff on emergency management and fire department. Let me just give you a quick rundown on what the chief had to say. I think that public safety is critically important to our community, and the update he had from that. So the issues that he brought to our attention were numerous: morale, vacancy, increased call volume, overtime pay, diversity, a leadership vacuum, the strategic plans, and facilities. And let me just hit on a couple of real important points. The vacancy rate when the chief took over in 2018 was at 21%. That means there were 74 sworn vacancies out there. Since then, that has dropped to, in 2020, to 9.3%, and in 2022 to 13%, meaning that there were 50 positions open, but we got 25 candidates recruits in our academy, so half of those should be filled at the next graduation ceremony. There are 400 plus positions available. Since he has been the chief, he has added or replaced 105 personnel on that. Our call volume is up by 11%. So there's an increased demand on our fire department. The city fire department has maintained its ISO accreditation, the Insurance Services Office, and also the accreditation through the Center for Public Safety Excellence. He made a big point to point out, which is really important for all of us, the interagency collaboration with the police department, which was shown through the Palm fire that happened a couple of months ago in my district, in the work between the city police department and fire department. And also, I got to give a shout out to Shannon for the work that the collaboration also included with the aftermath of that fire and helping people out, finding homes, getting them basic necessities over that. What's ahead of us that we need to be addressing is our control over overtime cost, a review of the pay plan. You heard a speaker come up, talk about the Human Resources Committee is going to be meeting on Thursday. We are falling behind in start pay and pay steps. There are 24 chief officer positions available that we need to fill. That is the leadership vacuum that the chief is concerned about mostly. And he has hired a diversity officer. Only 5% of our department are non-white, and only 3.3% are female. And those numbers need to change dramatically. There have been work in progress or improvements, when I counted them up, Chief, 15 stations throughout the city. And in one form or another, a complete overhaul or updates on 15 different stations. That is a very quick and brief summary of the chief's report. We had bounced him out before, and I just wanted to make sure that he got opportunity. And I did talk to Shannon today to just go over a couple things with him, but they are busy working on their emergency management response. Hurricane season is coming along the way. They're working towards that. I've got a meeting with him to get an update and a little more detail. It's coming Monday. But I just wanted to let you know that his department is a department of 3 people, him and 2 others, and they're overtaxed, but they have done a terrific job. So I just want to give a shout out to Shannon and his team. Thank you, Mayor. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Shade? All in favor of that report, say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is our Committee on Public Works. All right.
I second that the item on Church Creek has already been discussed at Ways and Means. Certainly move the adoption of the report, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor, please say aye.
That's right.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, our Committee on Ways and Means.
Second.
Any discussion, additions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is bills up for second readings. We have 7
Move,
items.
move take 1 through 7 together.
All right, and a second, any discussion on any of those? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Note
So
that
moved.
item number 2 is as amended.
As amended. So
And-
moved.
And then for third reading and ratification. All right. Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up, we do have one.
Move for
first
approval,
reading.
bill number 1.
That was the properties that was discussed at some length earlier. The bank at Wells Fargo, former Wells Fargo.
Move for approval.
At the corner. And y'all just give me a minute while I'm signing these other ones that have already been ratified. I have a motion to approve. Was there any discussion on that one? No. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Any further business to come before us this evening?
No.
Hearing